Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a pleasure to have you with us at an AMA that is essentially managed by Asia Tech Journal in partnership with Tyke. We have Univest today. We're hosting them today for this AMA. A startup which is essentially focused towards more informed investing, right? If I can put it that way. And of course, we're going to talk about that through the course of the conversation. This is a topic which is very, very close to my heart, right? I started my career as a banker. I've known people managing money, right? I've been on the advisory side of things, and that's extremely difficult, right? You continue to have so much of noise, right? So many influences that it just becomes difficult from an investor standpoint to make decision in time, right? And the worst part is that all of this is not necessarily very continuous and form, right? An element of emotion plays in, an element of influence plays in, an element of hearsay plays in, right? Some access plays in. So it's very, very discontinuous in that form, right? And an investor never kind of makes an optimal return, right? And that is extremely painful, right, to see, especially when a market is as exciting as India is, right? Guys, it's a pleasure to host you with us today at this AMA. I'm gonna open this conversation with a quick round of introduction, and then we dive into our conversation of talking of Univest, right, and how you're solving this, problem of multiple sources, right, helping investors in a uniform environment. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Ashu. It's our pleasure as well to come on this platform and present our business to the entire community. We are really, really pleased to have joining on this particular platform. Quickly giving a brief introduction about myself. I'm Pranit, co-founder and CEO of Univest. I've had multiple stints with multiple companies in the past. Last one was with OTP. I was a senior vice president for sales, growth, and marketing. It's a Westbridge funded agri-tech startup. Prior to that, I've worked with Go Mechanics, so set up their 3 new businesses, which now contributed to almost 50% odd. Prior to that, I've worked with Oyo. In 2018, I was heading their 2 businesses, OTA and CTA verticals for them. Then also worked with Rivigo and Reckitt Benckiser in the past. From the education perspective, I am a computer science engineer from BIT Mesra and masters from MBI Gurgaon. All in all, 10 years work-ex, 13 years into stock market investing.
Interesting. So and all super growth startups, right? Very interesting.
Have been fortunate to have worked in all these companies.
Interesting, and I'm sure the rub-off is going to be, is going to happen on Univest as well, right? Avneet, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, Ashu. Thanks for having us, Ashu. And hello to everyone. So, Ashu, a quick one about me. I'm the co-founder and I lead product at Univest. Right. Prior to this, I was at Book My Show, where I was leading their product for monetization and launched Book My Show Stream, which is the new OTT product. And prior to Book My Show, I was with Oyo for 2+ years, Snapdeal for 2 years, Yatra for 1.5 years. I've been in all the apps that you have in your phone.
Interesting. I like how you put it, Avneet. I like how you put it, and I think, guys, it's very complimenting, right? In many ways, between the both of you. We're going to move into discussing about Univest, right? Why don't you take us through, what is the thesis behind Univest, right? I mean, we know that this is an extremely crowded market, right? And like I said at the outset of our conversation, right, the sources of information are many, right? There are a lot of WhatsApp groups, there are a lot of the information continues to flow from wherever, right? Brokerages continue to provide their information, right? It's a very, very, like I said, fractured ecosystem, right? Pranit, why don't you give us a sense in terms of, how are you solving this problem, right? What's the construct of Univest? Let me put that.
Sure. So quickly, I'll start with a 30-second introduction of what is the genesis of Univest at first place, right? As I mentioned before, I've been investing in stock markets for the last 13 odd years, and all throughout, despite having a good understanding of, not a great understanding, I would say, but a good understanding, because nobody is great in this field, right? But having a good understanding of stock markets, I still felt that when I used to invest, I always used to invest in a more social sort of a way, wherein I always had those 2, 3, or 5 people, a close community members with me, who used to basically tell me that where to invest primarily. Right, and I used to invest it through my own research and more or less through a social way with multiple sources, right? Unfortunately, I faced multiple issues on a day-to-day basis. What kind of issues? One, 9 out of 10 times, whenever people have told me that, okay, buy ITC or buy Tata Motors, it's going to go up. But when the news came that semiconductor shortage is going to happen, those guys took an exit, unfortunately didn't inform me. Right? Buy SAIL because Rakesh Jhunjhunwala is invested. But when the export tariffs, 15% of export tariffs news came in, the other guy, took an exit, did not inform me. Right? And I was at the losing end. Right? I did not get those kind of ROIs. So I discussed those kind of problems primarily with Avneet. And he told me, yes, it's the same problem with me as well. And then we went on to do the research on 1,000+ people. And we found out that not just this problem, but there are multiple other problems. And that's the genesis of Univest, that let's not, think about making a business model which is more into investing or doing the same thing, which is what a lot of people are already doing in this cluttered space. Right? Let's try and solve for the day-to-day problems of all the retailers. Right? Because if you are able to solve for those problems and if you are able to generate those incremental returns, right, by solving those problems, that's it, your game is on. Right? So that's the genesis of Univest. Talking about what problems we are solving at and how we are solving at. One, as I said, right, the problem of exit. The problem of exit is never being told. Number two, one of the very big problems is that today this entire investment journey are all happening on a different platform. Like if you talk about information discovery, like about stocks, you typically go on Money Control, Google News, Yahoo Finance, and so on and so forth to read about the news. Then you go on to do research, going on platforms like Tickertape, Trendline, TradingView, India Charts, and so on and so forth. Then you go on to investing on any online brokerage or an offline brokerage kind of a platform, and then you invest in a particular stock, and finally you share it with your friends and community members, right, on a WhatsApp. Now, because of this, there's a problem of time lag. And people are not able to take timely entries or exits also, and the opportunities are gone. Right? So how can we solve it through Univest was one of the questions which was posed to us. I mean, naturally, when we started discussing. Right?
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay. I'm going to go on to ask you a question. Right? Now there have been many attempts that have been made, right? Pranit, where the initiative was to capture all of this intelligence and information flow that was available, right? There are certain experts, right? People who continue to operate in stock markets, they have their portfolio managers, they continue to come in, right? Media channels, for example, have been very, very active, right? I mean, if you look at, for example, CNBC, they become the primary source of information in this format, right? Correct. Now the challenge is not the discovery part, right? And in a way, you're right. Exit becomes a big problem, right? I'm going to come to exit in just a bit, right? The problem becomes that, what to buy, who to follow, right? Is a huge challenge, right? There is just, there is no way I can track, for example, how, Pranit is performing, right? And there's a discontinued as far as that is concerned, right? Tell me a little more about it. How are you solving that?
Fair. So,
I'll just ask you one question, simple. I think you might be getting your information from 1, 2, or 3 odd friends, very close ones. Let's call them A, B, and C. Let me ask you, what was your realized return from B over the last 6 months?
Right.
You might know that A is better than B, but you will never know the number here.
And it will never be absolute.
Yes. So you will never know what that return was.
Correct. Right. So that is one big problem that you don't get to know about that. And talking about the problem which you mentioned, that how do you solve for so much of social noise and clutter all around, right?
Right.
The biggest problem is, in a nutshell, that the maker and checker is the same today when it comes to social noise, right? The guy who is telling you the advice is the same guy who is also telling you that I gave you an XIRR of 40%, because of which that trust layer is missing. Right. At Univest, the maker and checker is going to be different. The maker is the data, the absolute trades which are happening, the absolute sharing which is happening. We are going to build profile of every single person, like from the perspective of what kind of stocks you are investing into, what term do you hold for, what kind of hit and miss ratio you have, what is the kind of percentage success, what is the kind of returns which you are getting, right? And basis that, we'll profile you and open those sort of public kind of influencers for the actual retailers so that they are not misguided. And therefore, the maker and checker are different. Univest being the checker and maker being the sharer.
Interesting. Guys, I want to talk a little more about the macros, right? Now, what has happened in the last 2.5 years is that we've gotten into a very, very dynamic economic setup, right?
Correct.
Now, to kind of, before 2020, the way we kind of operated, right, was markets were extremely inconsistent, right? Today, we've gotten into extremely dynamic market conditions, right? Where essentially means that businesses will have to be very agile when it comes to performance, right? Now, what I'm alluding to is that a lot of these analysts, for example, that we've had, portfolio managers that we've had, right? Now, this is a market condition which is not necessarily known to them, right? Now, while you're saying what you're saying, right, that, basis, say, for example, X performance that I've had, people can now kind of track me and invest with me and, follow my lead in that sense, right? The market environment is such which has become so much more dynamic, right? Now, while I could have had a phenomenal past track record, that at no point assures how the market is going to look like or how I am going to perform in future, right? Because of this macro shift that we're kind of seeing, right? And like I said, we're into very, very connected market, right? Models will have to be revisited. Risk, for example, will have to be revisited, right? What's your sense of it while you're doing what you're doing, right? So while you're cutting on the noise, or at least you're making it more systemic and institutionalized, where I can track it and follow it, how are you ensuring that these experts, for example, on the platform continue to be aligned and are in the right direction to discover greater sets, right? How are you tracking that agility, for example, that they're going to have in these markets? I'd love to understand some of that.
Sure. So I think it's a very, very valid question that past performance might not be the right indicator for the future, right? And how do you solve for it, right? So on a lighter note, starting with if you want absolutely assured returns, so any investor today, FT is a much bigger market, right? So for fixed returns, one does not choose stock markets. Right. However, how we are solving for it through Univest, it's not just the past track record of person, but also the algorithmic part of the data which is getting captured. Now, for example, if on a particular stock, your 50-day moving average is greater than your 100-day moving average and a 200-day moving average, and your overall stock has turned into a bullish trend, this platform has the capability to give you insights apart from those expert insights. Sure. It will be backed by the data part as well, that CDSL, for example, has turned from a neutral to a bullish trend. Right? So therefore, it will not just be the past track record of the expert, but also the AI-driven advices which will be led by the data part or the technical structures of the company.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, guys. Now this is a very, very cluttered market, right? I mean, stock broking and investing is, for example, not super, donkey, right? People have been very, very excited about it. I think what we've seen is a very different kind of a rush in the last 2 years, right? And largely because people had time, they had disposable money, and and essentially liquidity was high, right? It was shared, right? Now, there are many, many other platforms that are available, right? Who've essentially been trying to solve the same problem, right? I mean, of course, there are broking houses, which have, a research team which can give out information tips, right? They're experts who are kind of tracking, right? And then, of course, you have aggregators, like, for example, Univest, right? Which have come in, money managers that have come, right? They help you understand, your risk appetite better, and then they continue to sort of advise it, right? And they're solving it slightly more mechanically, right? Slightly more systematically, right? How do you differentiate yourself vis-a-vis them, right? Because a lot of them are doing this, right? I'd love to understand that. One second, a subset of the question. Now, these experts that you have in the platform, right? How are you? What's the relationship? Are these exclusive relationships that you have with your, these experts on the platform? What's the relationship like? How are you kind of ensuring that they are not going out and giving out same information and advice and inputs on other platforms?
Makes sense.
And is exclusive to you in top.
Makes sense. So I think very, very valid 2 questions here. Starting with the first one, which is how do you differentiate yourself from the other products? To tell you very simply, there are multiple platforms solving for this problem. I mean, the market is, let me start with a quick, brief number of total trading volume which happened last year. It's a $3.5 trillion trading volume which happened last year. Right. Number of trades which happened last year was around 6.4 billion trades. Right? So, of course, there have to be many, many players across different spectrums of the investment journey, right? Sure. Having said that, there is hardly any platform which is solving for the micro communities and getting all 4 stages together at one single place. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, there are platforms where you can do research and invest, Yes, there are platforms where you can discover and invest. But can you do discovery, research, investment, and finally sharing of that information amongst your friends within the community is what makes us unique. Number two, what makes us unique is that the timely exit advices which you will get, which you will very soon foresee in the upcoming app as well, right?
Sure.
That timely exit advices, nobody is going to give it to you. As soon as your friends are taking an exit from a particular stock, then from the knowledge sharing perspective, he can immediately share it with you as well, right? Which can definitely be a big value add-on, and not a, you can talk about Zerodha or Grow or any other like Thinker or Ticker Tape. The communities will never get to know about that, right? So that's one more differentiating big factor.
Right.
Talking about your I hope that answers your question.
It does, yes. Please go ahead. I think you're making a point.
Yes. So talking about your second question, can you please repeat just quickly if you can just...
What I essentially meant was, are these, for example, experts that advice that you're kind of bringing onto the platform, right? Are they exclusive to you or not, right? Do they still have the flexibility to go out and give the same advice on the platform?
So Ashu, the idea is, see, what happens typically is that we do not believe. I mean, after our research, what we have realized is that, yes, there are a lot of, experts which are, having lakhs of people in their groups on Telegram and Money Control and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, still in India as a whole, people do invest in micro communities, right? When I say micro communities, the 2, 3 or 5 closed people who the people trust when it comes to money, right? They invest basis them. So we are solving for the problems of micro communities first, and we will be creating the creators on our platform. We will not be onboarding the big experts coming here doing the same thing across multiple platforms. We would rather have 1 lakh micro communities, 5 lakh micro communities here, and the people who are performing great. Like a Twitter gives you a badge once you have started performing great for any field. Can we have experts of a particular investment asset class who have done really, really well in the past? They become a creator. So we are the first platform who will actually be giving you the content creator, creating the content creators on this platform.
Interesting. I like some of that what you're kind of putting out, right? Now I understand where you're coming from, right? I mean, this is cohort-based investing, community-led investing, right? Now the challenge when it comes to all of this, right, is risks are unique, right? My objective of investing could be very different. Your objective of investing could be very different.
Correct.
Our milestones could be very different. Our risk appetites could be very different, right? It just is extremely. And when you talk of what you do, right, what you're essentially doing is that to an extent it seems slightly amateurish, right? Where these communities are coming together, not necessarily led by some of these experts that we kind of talked about, right? Who understand markets. They're being clinical about studying these markets. They've been in the markets long enough, right? What we are possibly doing is being dependent on each other while we don't have time. And like I said, we don't understand each other's risks, right? That possibly puts us in jeopardy, and possibly loss of capital in the process, right? That just is a very, very tricky situation, right? How are you ensuring that, while the consensus, for example, say a community, right, of 3 people, the consensus could be, in favor of a stock A, right, which might not necessarily look very good, right, because of the larger indicators that are there at a macro level, and possibly is varying in terms of guidance from a variety of brokerage houses, right? How do you ensure that this community does not gets into a soup like this? What are the mechanics that are left?
Correct. I think very well, very valid question, Ashu. And let me. Therefore, if I'm understanding correctly, you're basically trying to say that within a small community, how are you finding compatibility between the 2 people? That if somebody is looking at for a longer term perspective or a different horizon, and you are a short term trader, right? We have solved for this, or we have already solved for this problem with a very unique Uniscore kind of a feature which is there on our platform, which will derive compatibility between the 2 people's trading styles as well, right? Basis once the people have already linked their portfolios and their past trades and the way they are sharing it and the kind of risk profiling which they have, 2 people's compatibility score will be matched, and basis that every people will be recommended, okay, for example, Ashu, you have a good compatibility with Avneet in terms of your trading style and the kind of returns you are looking at. You should follow Avneet more versus Pranit. Pranit gives, for example, right?
Right.
So in that case, so that's how, through that compatibility score called as Uniscore on our platform, we are going to solve for this problem.
Interesting. Are you creating some sort of assistance as well in the process, right? For example, indicator paper trading. Are there those mechanics as well which help one get a grip better in an environment like this, or are you essentially going after people who are already actively participating in the markets, right? I mean, what's your target segment?
Exactly. The people who are already investing in market. We are not going for the novices.
Interesting. Pranit, a lot of these guys already have a lot of established channels linked, right? While they listen to you, they're not necessarily dependent to you. It's like healthcare, right? If you have a problem, you're going to go on to 20 sources to find out right information, right? And then you basically you kind of eliminate the ones in the process, right, to get to the one you're closer to. What's your sense of it, right? I mean, how do you ensure that this convergence of these individuals happens to your platform? You become the primary source of information. How are you ensuring that, right? That you become the go-to platform and a priority in that order?
So I think that's the problem of engagement which you are talking about.
Sure.
That how will you engage with your users on a day-to-day basis so that the stickiness of those people are solved for, right? And that's why we came up with this entire one-stop platform. For your news and discovery, you don't need to go to any other platform but to come to Univest. For your own research, in terms of screens, if you want to see, you just need to go to Univest. For the investment part also, we are already integrated with all the online brokerages platform, and you can just link your portfolio once and invest in any other online brokerages platform you want to. You come to Univest.
Right.
For your sharing part also, you don't need to go to any other platform. You share it within the micro community here itself, right? So that's the beauty of the platform, that it's a one-stop solution for every investment need for this particular asset class today. And we'll of course be expanding our asset classes later once we have, achieved a decent number here.
Very interesting. Guys, where do you stand today, right? What are the numbers like? I looked at the presentation, right? I think the community side of it looks exciting, right? Tell us a little more about that. How is that coming about?
July end is the beta launch for us. Right. I think one of the participants also asked for this question. July end is the beta launch. Our front-end development is already done, right? So we are in the advanced stages of closing the back-end development and doing some sort of testing around that. July end we'll be launching it. Public control launch will be done within 15 to 20 days later, post that.
Very interesting. I would love to understand and would love you to comment a little on the commercial side, right? Now, given that you're like a marketplace, right? And you're solving for pretty much all the inconsistencies that exist in the market, right? I think your element of engagement is definitely going to be very, very high because you're a unified source of sorts, right? Now, like I said, right, I have my apprehension still continues if people are going to switch into this medium 100% very quickly. I think for that, the fight is going to take some time, right? That's at least my understanding. But I would love to understand the commercial side of it, right? How are you? What's your model there?
So we have primarily 4 sources of monetization, which we are planning to launch by the end of first year. Starting with the first one, starting in the month of November itself. That's the plan. First is advisory services, wherein we have already incorporated another affiliate company as well, which will be SEBI registered, and we will be providing our own advisory services, and at the same time there will be advisory services which we leverage the public data for making the public data. How will they make their portfolios public, and we will be charging a platform fee around that. So that forms the part of the entire advisory ambit. Second is the affiliate fee. So we are already in touch with, we have signed an NDA, so we can't tell you the name, but that we have already signed an agreement with a very large offline brokerage platform who is going to offer affiliate services in terms of free brokerage services on our platform, and that can be leveraged in the form of, for all the trading which are going to happen henceforth, once the person has opened his account through our platform, for the entire lifetime we'll get an X percentage of their brokerage, right? So that's the affiliate fee which we will be charging. Number 3 is the freemium subscription model, where quick small insights for 29 to 39 rupees. What we have understood is that in India, not a lot of people have been able to capitalize on the subscription part of it. So therefore, we have come up with we have studied some of the most successful models in the fintech space and what has worked with them, and therefore we have come up with a freemium subscription model, which is very low cost sort of a thing, right? For the people, so as to, for example, if the market is 1300 points down, what do we do today, right? For those smaller insights, right? So that will be data driven as well. So that sort of a thing, that is the freemium subscription model. And fourth is the distribution fee, which will come in the latter part of the year.
Very interesting. Pranit, now one thing that I want to talk to you about, right? Now, when you look at SEBI, I think there's a lot of fluidity right now when it comes to a distributor and advisor, right? I mean, it's more so when you're talking about mutual funds, right? But I think there is a lack of clarity. There's a little bit of gray area, right? And I think when you take a step back and when you look at what SEBI is doing and why it's doing, right? I mean, you get the logic and the reasoning, right? And that's largely to ensure very global standards, right? When you look at international markets, that's really the case, right? What are your senses about that, right? I mean, because you are there are a lot of other players. It's like a marketplace, right? How are you looking at that? Are there challenges on that side of it? Are you keeping a tab on it, or how are you keeping a tab on it?
Sure. So from SEBI, as per the SEBI as per the SEBI guidelines, I mean, there are only 1,324 RIAs in the country, registered investment advisors, right? And as per SEBI, there is a conflict in case if a person who is giving you the advisory and the same person is selling distributing the other asset class, the same asset class, that will be wrong, right? So his advisory licenses can be cancelled. So those kind of things, we are very well aware of all these guidelines of and we are working with all the top legal firms with us, and then we'll be ensuring that the distribution services are not provided to the same people for the same asset class for which the advisory is happening. So those kind of distinctions will be definitely taken care of on our platform.
Okay, there are like a lot of very, very interesting questions that are coming up. I'm not going to stand between you and the questions and
I'm more than happy to answer.
Right? I have just last two questions, right? What's the moat? This is an environment of extreme fluidity, right? Right, and less affinity, right? Because this relationship is very, very ROI driven. That's good. And there is a lot of competition, right? A lot of your competition is also raised capital, right? If not 100%, in some form or way, they offer very similar looking services, right? The asset class diversification is much larger, right? You're largely focusing on stocks and shares, right? What's your plan as far as tackling that is concerned? Second, what are the next 2.5 years for you? And I would love to ask you a 5-year question, but I think that's too far in the future, right? I would rather sort of, want to understand what are the next 2 years like. How are you prioritizing your?
Sure. So probably I can answer the second question first, and first I'll need a little more understanding from you again. On the second question about the next 2.5 odd years, our plan is to first ensure that because of our platform, people are able to generate at least 8 to 10%. That's our North Star metric. That at least 10% of additional returns if people are able to get because of Univest. That's the North Star metric which we want to achieve on this particular asset class first. That's why we have started with stock markets, the space which we understand as a whole, as a team, right? And we want to increase their ROIs first. We want to get the expertise in this particular field itself before going on in first year. That's the plan, that we'll just be doing getting command on this particular asset class before moving on to, we have 2 plans in place right now. It could be either an horizontal expansion or a vertical expansion. Horizontal expansion as in expanding to more asset classes, right? Vertical expansion as in going on to different levels to, options and commodity trading and forex and so on and so forth, going into that as well, right? So we have both the options open for us. We can also open geographies, but then again, it will also depend on the success of this particular phase. Before that, I will not be able to comment. We just know that we have options ready, but where the business takes us will depend on the success of this particular asset class.
Interesting. Cool. We're going to move into questions, guys. And like I said, I have a bunch of very interesting ones. The first one which has come my way is, why do you want to raise 50 lakhs to Tyke when you've raised so much more outside?
I love this question.
That's an interesting question.
I genuinely love this question. Thanks, Sahil, for asking this. I genuinely wanted to clarify myself, but thankfully you have asked it, so it makes my job easier, right? So hardly we have spent anything till now. Please understand that the people who are already investing in startup space, right? Most of them are already stock market investors or traders, right? So for me, if I am targeting micro communities today, for me, every single investor, whether he has invested 5,000 rupees also on my platform, he'll be my first flag bearer the day I launch. So if I can get 2,000 people or 1,500 people on day one talking about me, bringing their own micro communities and giving me the feedback and becoming that devil's advocate for me, who can get me a better platform, right? Why not? I mean, I ask.
Right. So I think power of community, right, makes it very, very different. I think resonance is right.
And for that matter, yeah, sorry.
No, I'm saying CAC is different. Please go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and for that matter, it's not about just 50 lakhs, as I said, right? It's always about, if I can get that buzz. I'm extremely happy the kind of response which I'm getting from the personal messages on LinkedIn. And thanks to Tyke, guys. Genuinely kudos to Tyke for the great work which these guys are doing. Lot of people have come back to us and said that, hey, I am very interested in your model and so on and so forth, right? So the kind of inbuilt demand which these guys have generated is crazy. I don't want to pay to Facebook and Google, right, on day one. I would rather have Tyke on my side. So thank you so much, Tyke, for giving us this opportunity too.
Amazing. Okay. Next question, guys, is why will somebody share their exits? Will that not kill their arbitrage, right? I think you need to possibly revisit the model. I think that will help people understand why should they share information, right? Because there's a possibility of upside that they have. So why don't you answer?
Sure. So there are two things, Dhruv. Thanks for asking this question. One, their arbitrage will not be lost, because once they have sold, then will the information be told to their friends, not before they have sold it, right? So the trade cards which we are going to send, it's only after they have taken an exit. That's one. Number two, in the existing scenario itself, when we did a research over 1,000 people, right? People told that it's not that I don't want to tell the exit advice to my friend. It's because I told my friend on a WhatsApp or on a call or something about entering into ITC 6 months back, and I have forgotten it today. Now I don't have any modality to tell him again, or nobody is going to, because these decisions are very, spontaneous as well sometimes, right? And you just take an exit and you don't think, यार आपने किस किस को बताया था. I'm sure Dhruv would also align कि उसको याद नहीं होगा 6 महीने पहले उसने ITC और Tata Motors किस किस को बताया था. I mean, I'm just taking the random names. But आपको पता नहीं होगा. My platform enables you to do that कि आपने इस 6 महीने में किस किस को बताया. He is already keeping a track record of that. He's just enabling you to do that. We are a facilitator, right? So we act as a facilitator. It depends completely on the sharer whether he wants to share it or not.
Interesting. Next question, guys. Does the platform work primarily on technical and fundamental analysis? Right. Do you have a backend? Are you doing some research there?
Yes. Can I?
Please go ahead.
Can I get a detailed question on this technical and fundamental analysis?
No. So this is a question which is very simple. The question is, does the platform work primarily on technical and fundamental analysis? Right? Are you providing any inputs on technical and fundamental? I mean, do you have a backend to do that?
So, just to give you a perspective, we have 5 people already in the team, led by a very experienced SEBI-registered investment advisor today, who is also going to be our principal officer. And then he's already leading that team to work on all the algorithms, right? Number 2, there is always going to be a manual support also, because it's in people's habits and we don't want to change habits of the people, right? It's in people's habit. He said, kya karu, ITC bech do kya? Right? This is a very, very common conversation which you will typically hear from the people, and we don't want to steal that away. So despite being data backed, we will always have that 24/7 helpline also open, wherein people will be able to ask their queries and we will get a response to them.
Super. what's the revenue model? We've done that. We've covered that very quickly. If you want to revisit that, I think we can take that.
So there are 4 sources of monetization. One is, as I said, advisory fee. Second is the affiliate fee. Third is the freemium subscription model, which we are going to come up with. And fourth is the distribution fee, which we are going to charge once we have started distributing multiple asset products on our platform. And when I say revenue streams, our success depends on 2 factors. One, if we are able to generate 10% additional return. Somebody has asked if 10%, some inflation related question is also there. 8 to 10% will be inflation rate, then how the subscriber are going to get benefit. Sir, what I meant, Vinash sir, what I meant was 8 to 10% additional returns on what you are earning today is my North Star metric. And number 2, by the end of this year, my goal is very, very simple, to make this BU profitable before going on to any other BU. I don't want to be any cash burning startup who is not going to earn money. It's very, very important. We are in a 100% tech-led business, 100% gross margin. When we do even a single additional advisory service with the same research team, that's a 100% additional gross margin which we are going to get, right? So our aim is to make this BU profitable by the end of this year itself.
I think, I'll just quickly sort of add to that. I think, Pranit, your goal really is to cut on the noise, right? I think so. For example, I am getting 20 information from 20 sources, right? I think I can go back and check on your platform, for example, right? What to do and what to do. I think that's really where, you're bringing that sensibility, right? I think you're becoming, absolutely, right? That, this becomes like a just dial, for example, and not in a wrong way, right? But this just becomes a just dial, right? That I have 20 sources of information. I can go back and verify, right? And I can see, how is the crowd thinking about it? What are some of the experts sort of thinking about it, right? It just helps me course correct. So I think you're actually saving people from committing stupidity and going by unsolicited, incomplete, inefficient advice, and essentially helping them benchmark it against what's the larger narrative around that particular call, right? I think that's essentially what you're possibly doing, just for the understanding of the audience. I think there
you have wrapped it very nicely, Ashu.
We have a bunch of more questions, right? So we have a bunch of more questions. Now, I think that somebody has highlighted a similar question, right? Pranit pointed out that they make investors exit at the same time, right? So essentially, if there are 100 investors who are at a certain stock, they can exit at the same time, right? So you're essentially killing that lag of sorts, right? Which is essentially the biggest of all problems in the stock market. The question is, what if the stock starts to rally right after the platform made us exit, right? What's your call on that?
So there are 2 things, Ashu. First of all, we are not saying that we are a facilitator, as I said, right? I mean, people are talking to other people. We are just facilitating them with speed, right? Sure. The exit advices which were not even being given, we are giving them today on the real-time basis, right? Now, after that, if the stock market rises or the prices rise, I mean, as Univest, probably we will not be owing that responsibility. We can intelligently guide you that this stock, and from the advisory perspective, we can intelligently guide you that where the data suggests that this trend is bullish or bearish, right? We can only suggest that. Of course, it depends on you guys now to take a wise call after this, right? But we can support you in as much possible way as.
But Pranit, tell me this, right? Now, a very honest and an important and a critical question, right? Now, when you look at technical analysis, right? Essentially, it does the same. It just helps you predict the market environment better, right?
Right? Absolutely.
Exactly. So I understand that this is not something technical analysis, not something that a lot of people understand. But I think the interest has grown over a period of time, right? In a way, you're trying to do the same, right? You're trying to sort of get a larger consensus in terms of what are people thinking about it, right? Is that a fair understanding?
No.
How do you see that?
Ashu, there's a gap. Like, for example, me and Ashu, let's pick one stock, CDSL. I'm sure since you are there into stock markets, you understand CDSL, right? It's a depository of all the demat accounts, right? For me, CDSL is a very, very good stock, right? Again, for knowledge perspective, I'm not an RIA. Please don't go on my advices, guys. But CDSL is a very, very good stock. Why? Because I see that this market, today, India is investing only 3% into direct stock markets, subpar 3%. In US, 55% of the people are directly investing in stock market. So I see a huge potential jump in India as well. Right now, as India grows in terms of demat accounts, CDSL will automatically grow because number of demat accounts will increase. So for me, on every dip, I'll keep on buying. Right? But for you, right now CDSL is in a bearish trend. And if you are a short-term trader, you will not want to invest. Rather, you would want to short that particular stock, right? Now, in that particular case, what will happen eventually is my compatibility score will kick in. My compatibility score will tell you, Pranit, when he says CDSL, he says it from a long-term perspective. He's a long-term investor. You are a short-term swing trader. You should not follow his advice. My uni score is clearly going to tell you. So as I said, we are going to intelligently inform everyone that, okay, what good steps you should take for investing, and that's how you will increase your returns.
Very interesting. Next question, guys, and an important one, right? What is the startup's registered name? I had a trouble finding you online, right? What are you doing about that?
Okay, so quick 20-second brief on why Univest as a name. Although there are a few common names in US and European markets, Univest means you and I invest, which is a social trading thing, right? You and I are investing together. Univest means universe of investments, right? And therefore Univest, because it's a globally significant, easy to understand, trustable name, right? And it syncs with our philosophy as well.
Right.
Now, when it comes to our official name, it is Univest Communication Technologies Private Limited. Number 3, yes, when you do a Google search, you will not find us today. But I can bet from my 10 years of experience, right, into sales and marketing space, what I can bet is after 3 months, it will not be the case, because I have already deployed my SEO team to work strongly on that. And unfortunately, the sandbox, we are right now in the sandbox of Google. In 3 months span of time, as soon as we come, we are already working very strongly on the SEO part of it. You will find us at the top.
Interesting. What brokerages platform are supported currently?
Ashu, it's this. We support 16 brokerage platforms right now, starting from Zerodha, like Upstocks, Grow, ICICI Securities, HDFC Securities, Axis, Kotak, 5paisa, IAFL, Angel One, Dhan, you just name it. I think in total there are 16.
So that is approximately 90% of the total trading volume which is happening on the online brokerages today are connected with us.
Interesting. I think the questions are a lot, right? I think there's a flurry of questions. Next one, guys, who's your competition, right? Of course, we covered that in some form or the other, but who's your competition?
Primarily, see, social investing space is very new to the Indian markets. In last 1 year, there are a few companies who have come up. Everybody is having a different angle per se. Somebody is trying to solve for B2C communities, like managing subscriptions for Telegram communities and so on and so forth. You name a few, it'll be 3 dots. Trinker, the upcoming name may be Liquid, right? So these are the few companies which are into this space, pretty new. And everybody is trying to figure out in a different way altogether, because the market is extremely big, as I said, right? It's already a $3.5 trillion trading volume which is happening in India, and with a potential to grow 20 to 25x in next 10 years, right? So that's the kind of market we are operating in.
Okay. When do you expect profitability? The big, I think, $1 billion question, right? When do you expect profitability?
This BU, by conservative numbers, by June 2023.
Interesting. How will Univest use its AI library to enable investors to make better decisions on stocks? I think we've covered that, right? Do you want to very quickly, just possibly in 1 or 2 lines, do you want to make a comment?
Better decision making.
How will Univest use its AI library to enable investors make better decisions in stocks? Basically, it's aggregated intelligence that you have, and then you're merging it with macro data. Correct. And a lot of noise that is available. How Correct. Will that be available for investors? It's basically what you're doing fundamentally is what they're asking.
Correct. So primarily, we are leveraging social analytics, data analytics, and also the market analytics, which is already coming in. It will be a combination of these 3 algorithms will be running on these ends, so as to make users' life more simple and more intelligent, so that they can take the decisions, very intelligently before investing or taking an exit.
Next one, is there a cap on how many subscribers an expert would cater to?
Not yet, sir. We will be more than happy if you come on board. money doesn't matter, even 5,000 works for us. But what matters is that on day one, we need more than 2,000 people from Tyke.
Interesting. Power of community, right? I think that is
absolutely.
How will Univest help an investor during a bear market?
How will Univest help investor?
In a bear market, I think you're built for that.
Yeah, right. So when it comes to intelligent decision making, it is not just for the bullish market, right? It is primarily for the bearish market. I would rather say like that, right? In the bullish market, even it's a very interesting theory in US, right? There were two people, one an investment banker, another parrot. They were asked to choose 5 stocks which will go up in a bullish market, right? Returns with the parrot selected 5 stocks were more than the investment banker, right? So primarily the intelligence kicks in when, especially in the bear markets, right? So yeah.
Sorry, my bad. It was a bear market, right? I was looking at the next question, and that's the slip. Girish asks if investors can get a free access to Univest.
Free access.
Free access.
Yes, it is. It's absolutely free. All the sharing is absolutely free. So the idea is never monetize, and this is what we have learned over the period, right? Over my experience across multiple companies. Never monetize the want. Always monetize the desires, right? So the platform will be free for sharing. Platform will be free for all the engagement related activities which are driving consumers to my platform. But desires will be monetized, and that's what has been taken care of.
Super. Last one from my side. What gives Univest confidence on success? What is the... We've covered that, right? But I think that's always important to keep addressing the topic.
Sir, what I can tell you is, every entrepreneur is, extremely confident about what he is building, right? Just like every other entrepreneur, I am also pretty confident. The only thing which I can also say is that, me and Avneet have left our, 9 figures, 8 figures kind of salaries also, right? 7, 8 figures kind of salaries to, come up with this idea. And then it was always our dream that we'll open something like the problem which WhatsApp has solved for messages. Can we open that? We need to go into that territory only, right? And we have been exploring it for years now. And when we found out these problems which were relatable to almost 1,000 odd people, the research which we did on, then only we went ahead and made this idea. And of course, I can go on giving gyan about what is the success metric and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's about, the passion of the entrepreneur which you should bet on. And if you feel that we have that passion, please be a part of the Univest family.
And just quickly sort of add to the moat, right? Moat part of it, of course, you're doing what you're doing, right? And you're bringing in that intelligence which is there. But I think with each passing day, with the community sort of increasing, right? I think it's more about the awareness, right? I think what you have is a natural sort of a pull, because fundamentally people want to make money, right? But they want to make money on the right assets and stocks, right? I think what you've created possibly is a helpline which I can go to and I can verify and and see, and I can type, and there's a larger community which comes in to sort of say help me in the process, right? And you're mapping it intelligently in the process. I think that really becomes your defense in the process. I think a lot of others who are your competitors are doing it in a very different way, right? I think they're cooking it and then they're taking it to the market, saying that this is good for you, that is bad for you, and there's nothing wrong with that model. I think what you're doing is you're trying to help them. I think the two will coexist, right? I think they will continue to complement each other, is how I kind of look at it. For them to get into the model that you're doing is very difficult, and for you to possibly get into that, I don't think that's probably what you're kind of chasing, right? I think these two will continue to coexist. People will try and make informed calls, and I think you are that information center which is bringing in this, like I said, this flow of views, ideas, research, right? Structured. You're bringing in sensibility in that, right? And I think people are going to invest a little more confidence, right? My sense is, I think you're going to be that catalyst enabler in the process, which will help people move faster in the decision making, which is going to support a lot of other platforms in the process, right? That's something that I very clearly see.
So I think summarize it in a nutshell, I would say that before investing, there'll be only one line in every home is what our vision is, that Univest kar le yaar ek baar, pehle check kar lete hain before investing, right?
Absolutely.
So if you are able to become that household name, and that's what our vision also is, right?
The idea is also, I'll add here.
लोग क्या कह रहे हैं एक बार चेक कर लेते हैं.
एक बार यूनिवेस्ट पे चेक कर लेते हैं यार.
Why not think it in a way कि वो लोग chat ही यूनिवेस्ट पे कर रहे थे, तो उन्हें जाना ही नहीं है कहीं पे चेक करने के लिए. Because our chat is going to be people are using WhatsApp for even the talking about investments, right? But people, I'm not sure if people here use Slack, right? Slack, when you use it, use for a commercial, like your business discussions or commercial discussions, which are very different than your personal ones, right? Then why not investments?
No,
Investments
absolutely.
the chat that we are building, it's within. Like, I'm not saying.
I think, guys,
WhatsApp, but very, very investment specific.
No, absolutely. And I think what excites me particularly about what you guys are doing is that you'll be able to bring in, and not you, right? I think you're enablers in the process, right? I think the platform, if the community comes around, right? And I think which is essentially what you're targeting with this activation that you're doing on Tyke, right? If this community comes alive, I think that speed of transaction is going to be much faster, right? Because I know now like 100,000 people on this platform, for example, are investing in this particular stock, right? So my conviction is going to be higher. I'll be a little more fearless in terms of my investing, right? And I think that is a huge shift of sorts, right? This silo-based investing, essentially, people continue to be in that zone where they continue to defer things, right? And that's a big sort of a problem in the investing ecosystem. I think this will possibly solve that as a problem. And I think that possibly is going to be a huge impact that you create, of course, apart from all the other good things that you're doing. Guys, we have last few minutes. I'm going to request the Tyke team to take it over. Yeah.
Hi, 3 questions for you quickly.
Yeah.
I heard about your model.
Okay.
Given the age of fast copying of the competition, what is the entry barrier or what is there in your platform which makes it difficult for the next person to replicate? That is number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is this. There are several platforms, as you rightly said. What is the USP which will make the existing investor to switch from the other platform to your platform?
Okay.
3 is, while I liked your idea of giving advisory services to the investors, I also would like to know, if I invest in your startup, what is the time period you are suggesting that when I will be turned profitable in my investment? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Venkateshan, for all the 3 questions. To begin with, first question, which is what makes it uncopyable or something? So I fundamentally believe that yes, features can be copied. Features can never be any platform's USP. After working in a lot of startups, right? What I can assure, what we have as a company, what we have taken how we have taken a decision of raising a seed round before, again, right in 2 months span of time of raising an angel round, is that as soon as we are able to achieve our aim of increasing the ROIs for the people, right? Once we have seen that sort of a fit and people liking our platform, we go for an immediate scale up, right? And that is the primary reason of raising the money right now. Otherwise, we have decent money in the bank account, which we can, because people, the bigger players in the market have a lot of money in the bank and they can just come and copy the features as well, right? But by the time anybody thinks that somebody comes up with a product market fit and look at the top features and think of implementing this entire thing, which will take another 2-3 months, we would have already scaled it up. That's the plan. Number 2, coming on what makes the platform sticky. Very important, right? We have this one-stop solution thing where people can come up on a daily basis to check what's happening on their personal portfolios, right? If there is any movement which is happening, like for example, somebody mentioned that InWealth is also doing a lot of personalized news or something like that. Yes, they do. But if there is any golden crossover sort of a things happening, or a resistance level getting broken, or 52 weeks high getting broken, or there's a volume breakout which is happening on your personalized portfolio, we have ensured that on a daily basis, whatever activity on the technical aspects of things as well are happening on your platform are being informed to you, so that if you want to do anything with your portfolios, you can, right? And apart from this, probably if Avneet wants to add, he can also add something.
I'll add one thing, sir. Maybe a normal investor invests 5 or 6 odd times in a quarter, right? But you check your portfolio every day, at least 22 days a month. So what do you check for that? So all those information points in a better way. Right now, why do you check your portfolio on Zerodha, news on Money Control, and maybe some other app for some other part? You will find that here as well, but in a more organized and informed way.
And just to add the last point here, no one literally will give you a real-time exit advice, exit related information about your friends as well when they are taking an exit, right? So rather than getting those chats also done on WhatsApp, it's important that if a friend has done a chat on Univest platform as a whole, then automatically the exit advices are also getting to them on a timely basis, on a real-time basis, which makes it very, very unique. To answer to your third question, which is when are we looking at the exit for the people? To be honest, for us, when we take the revenue, right, we have to bear a very strong expense, and we see the valuations going pretty high in the coming future. What we see is anywhere between 1 to 2 years is what we are planning to repay the debt, whatever we take it today. That is on the conservative side when we are taking to get you the returns as well. I hope that answers your questions.
Sir, my question is that you are don't you think your subscription model is very high and about breaking charge?
You're talking about the subscription model cost, right?
Yes, sir. And brokering, I read about that you compared 30 to 29. I don't remember the exactly.
Correct. Okay. So, sir, we have already benchmarked our prices against the competitors, right? When it comes to advisory services, right, for which the subscription, that is going to be one of the lowest in the market. We have already, you take any name, right, Catalyst Wealth or so on and so forth. You can go on to the market and search for it. Our prices will be very, very competitive and almost on the lowest side of things, right? On the subscription side of things, the prices are going to be, for Insights Unlock, it is going to be 29 to 39 rupees, right? Which is again on a pretty lower side of the spectrum. Right, if you compare it with the likes of India Charts or Trading View, where people will get you the technical analysis for almost 1,000 rupees a month or 800 rupees a month, right? I'm not comparing it with the likes of Money Control today, which is giving you 365 rupees for an year, but still it is in the line of how Money Control is also going to charge. It's almost in parity, 10-12% premium, that's it, not more than that.
Pranit, I am a little confused because I think what you people are mentioning or your USP is the exit. Now, to my understanding, in this whole rally, which started from April 2020 till date, or probably till October 2021.
Correct.
No one in the industry was so bullish, So I don't know, how will you make an exit? Because you had been mentioning that we'll be making at the right exit. How does it matter if my friend is making an exit and he made the wrong decision? I also made the wrong decision just by seeing, that he made the exit at the wrong price. So suppose if I made an exit of CDSL at 500 or 600 or 700, it went up to 1700.
Correct.
I'm not making the I'm not maximizing. What kind of alpha can I expect from your platform? Is it possible? And if yes, then how?
Okay, I think very, very good question, Lakshay. Now there are 2 points which I need to make. Slightly wanted to clarify also about the platform so that it is not perceived wrongly. The USP is not perceived wrongly. One, when we talk about that exit information is getting shared, we are not changing the habit of the user, right? User wants it today. We are just a facilitator. We are not advising. When a X user tells Y user that buy this stock or sell this stock, we are not the one advising that. right? People are doing it on WhatsApp already. People are already talking that, okay, buy Tata Motors or sell Tata Motors. They are discussing it on WhatsApp today. We are just facilitating them with the faster speed of execution, and then it completely depends on the user whether to do that or not. Now, number 2, talking about whether you can predict markets. If I am, probably understanding from the language, nobody can predict markets, right? Not even Warren Buffett, right? Who are we then, right? But the point is, we can indicate you, for example, if the RSI levels are extremely high, if PE levels are extremely high, if the technical indicators are now suggesting that, boss, it is now time that it will turn bearish from here on. Our platform intelligently can only suggest you that it is going to happen. It might just happen, right? The indicators are suggesting. It totally depends on you whether you want to take that call or not. Now, if let's look at it the other way around. If people don't even want to see this kind of an information, then what is the genesis of screener or ticker tape for that matter, where people go and check for these kind of analysis? We are just providing it in the form of insights directly being made, rather than user creating those sort of screens by himself and then doing all the effort.
So I would like to sort of add to that, right? Laksh, I think this was possibly the highlight of the conversation, right? I think a brilliant question that you asked. Now, just a quick point in defense of what Univest is doing, right? Is that, so assuming you have some advice, right? Say, for example, CDSL, right? Given that we've been discussing this, right? Now, assuming there are 5 friends who are saying CDSL, right? Sell or whatever, right? Or buy. Now, you can actually test that against the larger consensus which is available in the market, right? And that's essentially what Univest does, right? It helps you understand the larger narrative which is getting built. That is what essentially it's helping you do, right? So you can actually go back and rep check of sorts, right? Now, that's essentially what is going to happen, right? In this particular, right? Now, Pranit, the question to you is, and that's the other side of the story, right? Is that consensus takes time in getting built, right? All right. Now, I mean, I'm sure everybody here would have seen The Big Short, right? You typically have just about a very, very small, very small percentage of people who can read through all of these macros and are then making decisions, right? What you're possibly as a platform will be doing are going to be giving larger indicators, right? It's still not going to dictate how the consensus is going to move in that sense, right? There could be a certain lag. How do you tackle that? Because, like I said, right, the consensus is going to take certain time to get built in the process, right? That's the nature of the market. How do you ensure that those trends become visible in the process? What's the risk mechanics that you are putting together? There could be one individual. There could be Laksh who's saying that this stock is going to fall, right? I don't like it, right? How do you ensure that gets amplified very quickly to a larger base which is out there? Because that becomes your responsibility in a certain form of way, right? As a platform.
I think extremely, extremely valid last 2 questions, and thanks Lakshay and Ashu for bringing this up, right? There's not a single thing which can answer this. I mean, not just Univest, but not anyone can actually answer this, right? It's a combination of multiple things. One, the social analytics, right? How the people are behaving in this market right now. 2, how the data is getting built over the period, right? What are technical suggesting? 3, how are the financial ratios moving across of different companies across industries, right? How they are getting built up. 4, how are the fundamentals moving? 5, how are the global markets moving, right? It's a combination of all these 4-5 things. And the best part about having all those getting incorporated in a single platform like Univest, which is everything at a single place, makes Univest the most preferred choice to answer you closest to the reality. Nobody can predict it, as I said, but we can at least be the closest to that because we are capturing the social part of it. We are capturing the technical part of it. We do have the ability to do the fundamental analysis, and also not just the data, but we have humans who are SEBI registered investment advisors working on all of this, collating it and combining that into insights for the users.
Interesting. And I think the platform becomes stronger as you go along, right?
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of
more the sharing, the better it is.
Absolutely. And like I said right at the outset, the community becomes important in this larger scheme of things. Pranit, we couldn't, there were a bunch of questions, that were about the valuation. We unfortunately couldn't cover that. Possibly, I'll request Team Tyke if we can do another session with you where we cover some of these bits and pieces. We will come back to all of the audiences in just a bit on that one. But it was a pleasure to host both of you for this session. An incredible set of audience. I think one thing which is a constant, and I think what these last 2.5 years has done, is that they've made us a very agile society, right? I think that inhibition of investing is kind of gone away, right? The good part is people are taking independent calls, right? And I think structures like Univest essentially help the people move fast, right? Something that I've been kind of continuing to harp on time and again. I think financial services, right, and financial product sales continues to be the toughest part, right? And that's largely because people do not understand their own requirements or do not have the confidence, right, in the advice that is sort of flying around. I think you help fast track that. I think that's the single biggest impact that you help achieve, right? Systems improve over a period of time. We spoke of competition. I don't think competition. There could be a little bit of competition, but I think you're positioned very, very differently. I think you're tackling this market in a very different way, vis-a-vis many others who've taken the stance of building their own research and putting it out. I think you're helping validate that from a user standpoint, right? So your role becomes very different in that field. Guys, it was a pleasure to host you here on this session. Thank you so much for doing this, and would look forward to speaking with you sometime soon.
Absolutely, fantastic. Pleasure talking to you guys, and pleasure. Thank you to all the audiences for asking these all these questions, and hopefully we have been able to solve for all these problems. More than happy to answer to any other questions as well. Please reach out to us on LinkedIn or wheresoever, or through Tyke. We can arrange any other session as well. More than happy to answer to all other queries as well. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.